get started. The last talk of our session and of our meeting, we have the pleasure to introduce Danilo Shafashek, and speaking to us about how long does it take for a particle to cross a barrier.
Good morning, everyone. So, I am a master's student at the Federal University of Paraná, and I developed this work with my advisor, Giovanni Vasconcelos, and my co-advisor, Antonio Macedo. And I'll talk about the time spent by a particle in the tunneling process using a different approach to quantum mechanics called Nelson's stochastic quantization. So the problem that we have here is that quantum mechanics doesn't have a time operator. This was discussed here before, and this say us that it is not possible to make measurements of time in quantum mechanics. But a lot of effort has been made to develop a way to describe the time spent by a particle when it's tunneling through a barrier. And some of these attempts was the phase time, dwell time, the time developed by the Böttcher-Landauer, and this more recent the space-time symmetric model, and several others like the Larmor precession times. But none of them are entirely satisfactory, because some of them are problems in definitions, some of them are problems in the results that they given, and we are trying to give an approach to this problem using the Nelson stochastic formulation to help us to get some insights about this problem of the tunneling time. So now I will give a brief summary of what is stochastic quantization. So the stochastic quantization was developed by Edward Nelson in 1966, and this formulation and interpretation of quantum mechanics is based on the idea that the particles can be modulated using a Brownian motion. And this I think it can be easily understood because like in Brownian motion in quantum mechanics, the particles doesn't have a definite position, and to do so we use two stochastic differential equations, or Langevin equations. One equation forward in time and another equation backward in time. So here in this equation we have a deterministic part with two velocity functions, and this another part is the stochastic part, where the double is an element of the Wiener process. The Wiener process can be understood like a standard Brownian motion, and here we can see that the coefficient of this stochastic part depends on the Planck's constant. And why we need these two equations? Why do we need these two equations? Because with these two equations together, we can recover the time reversibility in quantum mechanics. And we can define the velocities in the usual sense, because the trajectories in the Brownian motion are not differentiable. So what we do? We take the mean of a forward different derivative, and we can also take a mean of the backward derivative, and we define these two, the plus and the minus that are forward and the mean forward and the mean backward derivatives, and use this to define these two velocities, the plus and the minus. But what we use is this another velocity fields, V, that is just the average of the plus and the minus, and that is called the current velocity, and there is another velocity that is almost called the Mach velocity, that is the subtraction of the plus and the minus over 2. This will be important soon.
Can I ask you a question? Just the letter E on the second line, when you define B plus, what is the letter E?
Letter
The
E
average?
is the letter that you use to mean average.
Mean.
You're doing
What
an
basically
average.
is it?
Yes. So associated with this Fokker-Planck, stochastic differential equations, we have two Fokker-Planck equations. A forward and a backward Fokker-Planck equations that give us the probability distribution of the process. And if we sum these two Fokker-Planck equations, we can easily see that we get a continuity equation showing us that we have the conservation of the probability. When we define J as the probability current density with the B times P, the current velocity multiplied by the probability distribution. And if you subtract the two Fokker-Planck equations, we get one relation to the osmotic velocity. We can relate the osmotic velocity with the probability distribution of the process. And now we can define another function, the acceleration, taking the two derivatives, again using our definitions to the two derivatives, the plus and the minus. In defining this way, the important idea in the Nelson's quantization that you can relate this acceleration, this mean acceleration, with the potential function like it's done in classical mechanics. Here we can see a connection, direct connection to quantum mechanics with the N-facet theorem, where the mean acceleration can be related with the potential function. And now if you make these substitutions here, maybe if you introduce the functions R and S, and applying or better developing this expression for the acceleration using stochastic calculus, we'll find this expression. That is just the Hamilton-Jacob equation with an additional term here that is sometimes called the quantum potential. And we can rewrite the continuity equation this way using the functions R and S. These two equations forms a system of equations known as Madelung equations. The system was developed by Madelung just a few months after Schrödinger introduced his equation, and it's just equivalent to the Schrödinger equation. Here we can write the wave function using the R and S, and we will recover the Schrödinger equation. And in this formula, the energy of the particle is given, like in classical mechanics, is given by the sum of the kinetic energy of these two velocity fields plus the potential function. So the energy here is not constant. It's always fluctuating because the position of the particle is always fluctuating. But the average of this energy will be constant and is equal to the ground state energy of the particle. So one important thing here is the energy is not constant at all. So you can use this formula to describe the tunneling time of a particle better, the traversal time of a particle subject to a potential. So if you have a Brownian particle starts at a point x inside an interval between x0 and xc at t equals 0, the probability that the particle is still in this interval at time t will be given by this function g. Here p is the conditional probability that the particle is in the position x prime time at time t, given that the particle was at the position x at the time at t equals 0. And we integrate this inside the interval of the initial positions. And this conditional probability will satisfy the Fokker-Planck equation, and we can find this expression to the mean tunneling time of the particle. That's a very simple expression that just depends on the probability distribution that can be easily calculated using the bar rule of quantum mechanics. So here we have a closed expression to the, or a general expression to the tunneling time. So what we did was use this expression to analyze the tunneling process in double L's. So here we have the particle double L that has a work in the literature about it, but this potential, the particle double L, doesn't have an exact solution because it's just a numerical solution that cannot have a closed analytical expression to the tunneling time. So what we did was analyze this more simple potential, the double square L, that is more simple but have exact solutions to analyze. So we will analyze this here, this potential, the double square L. So the expression for the tunneling time is given by this equation here, with is a function of the potential parameters and the energy of the particle. And here we can see the plot of this mean tunneling time function of the direct distance. Here we can see the behavior of this tunneling time, that we have an increasing in the time when the barrier thickness increases as well. This makes sense because when if the barrier is larger, the particle takes more time to tunnel. But when the barrier is very large, the barrier starts to use a pressure in the particle with the infinity wall. Now we have the infinity wall at one side and the barrier, and this starts to make a pressure that turns easy to the particle tunnel to the barrier. And this, because of it, we will have a decreasing in the mean tunneling time. So here we have a description that makes sense with we would expect for this case. So.
Sorry to interrupt. Can you explain the downward part? Because it's saying the longer the barrier is, the quicker it goes through.
If the particle is because in the barrier is very large, it starts to make a compression here with the infinity well outside. You compress the particle, so the particle is like we have a pressure in the particle. In the particle, there is any other option that is not a tunnel through the barrier. So here we did
I'm sorry, but this time isn't the time that takes for the particle to tunnel the well? So you just said that the larger the barrier,
yes.
It makes some pressure to the particle and it doesn't tunnel.
No, it does tunnel.
But with less time.
Yes. It's more faster to the particle tunnel. Now we have a decreasing here in the time.
So is this like the Hartmann effect in some sense?
Sorry?
Is this similar to the Hartmann effect where?
Yeah, I'll talk about it at the more end.
Just to make sure I understood, so if the red curve that's what it was saying, right? It goes down different ways. At 4, D equals 4. So it's more steep in the red one. It's more steep. Right?
Yes.
The red one is more
yes.
steep than the
Yes.
green one and the blue one.
Yes, here is an effect of the potential. I think it's more large the potential. This makes more difficult the particle tunnel. But
But in any case, the barrier thickness with highest mean tunneling time is around 3.2, right? It's the same for, almost the same for all of them, around 3. It doesn't change much. The barrier thickness with highest mean tunneling time is about the same for all potentials. Okay.
no, I don't know if I understand.
No, I was just analyzing that, and I actually answered my own question. Okay, thank you.
So, what we did next was asymptotic, to find an asymptotic expression to the tunneling time when the potential is very high, or when the potential is going to infinity. So this will be important soon, but now I will explain a little of how we stood the tunneling using the canonical quantum mechanics. So in quantum mechanics, we have two states in the. We can get two states in the double L. The ground state, that's an even state, and the first is the state, that's an odd state. And if we make a superposition of these two states, we'll have localized the wave function in the left side of the double L. And if you evolve with this wave function time using the time evolution operator, we'll have after some time, we'll have localized the wave function at the right side of the double L. And we can associate this to a tunneling time. But this approximation is not very good because here we will not have a perfect localized wave function. Here we already have a part of the wave function into the barrier. So to this approximation make sense, we needed the potential to be very high, or goes to infinity, will be very larger than E. And we can approximate the energy difference, the energy splitting between the first excited state and the ground state, and we can associate this to the oscillation period of this movement of the wave function going from one side to another side of the double L.
Is this delta E independent of the barrier height? Like, does it along the spectrum depend?
No, it's not independent.
Okay.
Delta E. So here delta E depends on kappa B. Kappa depends on the B0.
Okay.
Kappa. Here the expression for kappa. So this approximation will just make sense when B0 is very larger than E. And here we have the expression for the oscillation period when in this limit of the V0 going to infinity. And then we see that this oscillation period increases with the exponential of kappa d. And you can relate the expression for this oscillation period in the quantum mechanics with our expression for the tunneling time using also stochastic quantization. So here we have the duration of the t, the oscillation period in quantum mechanics, with 2 tau. That's the oscillation period in the Nelson stochastic quantization. And we see that they are related by a constant factor of pi over 2. And here we have the plot of this duration, and we see that for small potential, values of the potential, we have a variation in this ratio, but then goes to this constant value in this limit. So these two times are not equal, but they are related with, by a constant factor. So we can ask if this potential, if this relation is valid for every type of double L or just in the case of the square double L. So what we did was analyze these another two potentials. The double Rosen-Morse potential is very interesting because it is related with ammonia inversion state. In the ammonia molecule, the nitrogen is always tunneling through the potential back here made by the hydrogen atoms. And we can modulate this potential with a double Rosen-Morse potential like this. And we also analyzed the double Scarral potential with the finite depth. So here is the expression for the tunneling timing in the double Scarral with finite depth. And here you can see that the expression is almost the same as for the double L with infinite depth with a factor b. This b is a function of the potential parameters and the energy, the particle energy. And if it is the limit of pd going to infinity, db goes to infinity, and we recover the solution to the double square L with the infinite depth. So here you can see that this result our results are in agreement. But for the double Rosen-Morse potential, the problem is that it's a continuous potential. So we cannot say where the particle starts its tunneling process and where the particle ends its tunneling process. So what we did was take an average over the initial positions of the particle. Here we have the xf. The xf is the final point of the tunneling process, and we'll vary this xf between the interval x1 and x-min. The x1 is the first classical turning point of the particle in this potential. And the possible initial positions will be inside this interval, minus infinity and minus xf, with the probability given by the Born rule renormalized in this interval. So, in doing this and calculating the ratio of the t over 2 tau in function of this parameter xf, the final positions of the particle, we can see that in the limit where the B0 is very high, all the values for all values of xf, this ratio converges to pi over 2. And it doesn't care what value of xf we are taking to make the calculations in this limit of the zero very larger than e. So we can make it. We can choose any points that we like. We can take maybe the first classical turning point on the x-min. That makes sense as well to study the tunneling time. controllers to the constant value of pi over 2 for the ratio. And actually, we can show using the double cavity theory that this result is valid for every type of double L in the limit of V0 and very high. So this is a general result of this ratio between the time, the oscillation period of quantum mechanics approximation of localized states and our expression using stochastic quantization. And here we made a comparison with the tunneling time in ammonia. We fitted the finite double parallel. We fitted that with the double Rosen-Mars potential to compare. And here we can see the results for the parameters. And here Tk is the time oscillation period in quantum mechanics, and the Tsk is the time as the oscillation period calculated by a gamma multiplied by our oscillation period in stochastic quantization. You can see that the results are in agreement, so the stochastic quantization can be used to predict the oscillation period in ammonia molecule, and you can see that for the non-potentials we have increasing the values, showing that the value descriptions is really given by the double Rosen-Mars potential for the case of the oscillation states in the ammonia molecule. And another analysis that we can do is calculating the tunneling time distributions. This model nature gives us the distributions of the times, and we just make use of the Euler-Margolin method, and the dV plus in the trajectories are calculated by the probability distribution of the particle. In this case, in stationary case, dV plus is just equal to the osmotic velocity, and the delta double is a random value with a Gaussian distribution with the mean 0 and the standard deviation equal to a square root of the delta t. And if we simulate the trajectories of the particle, we can get the time distributions to the tunneling process. And something interesting to see here in these two examples of trajectories is that when the particle is inside the barrier, the energy of the particle in the blue line is not lower than the energy of the potential barrier. So the particle, it's not really tunneling. It's just they have an energy that is higher than the potential barrier, and so the particle can pass over the barrier. But the mean energy is always constant and lower than the energy of the potential barrier. So here we have the plots of the distribution, and here you can see that we have an exponential decay on the tunneling time, except for the small values of the time. For the as to the particle potential, as to the double spiral potential. So we have an exponential tail. And again, for the double Rosen-Mars potential and to the double spiral potential infinite depth, we have an exponential decay to the tunneling time distribution. So again, exponential tail. And you can show, using the Fokker-Planck equation, that there is a universal behavior for the tunneling time. For larger times, they always have exponential decay. Then we have limited for our simulations. And to end, here we studied the case of the single barrier. In this case, you cannot have a closed expression for the tunneling time because the the calculations are very difficult, so you cannot have a closed expression just for the limit value of the tunneling time. In the case where V0 is very larger than it. And here we can see that this limit expression does not suffer of the of some problems that other times have in the literature. Some of them suffers of what we call Hartmann effect. That's when this limited expression for the tunneling time doesn't depend on the barrier thickness. So if the tunneling time doesn't depend on the barrier thickness, the velocities can be arbitrarily large, and so we can have a superluminal effect. But our expression for the tunneling time in this limit does have this problem. So and again, here we can simulate the trajectory and we get exponential decay, like expected. And to end this, here the summaries of the presentation. So Nelson's stochastic formulas can provide some insights to help us to calculate it and understand the tunneling time of particles to a barrier in double wells, and the oscillation period calculated in Nelson's formulas in the quantum mechanics approximation of localized states are related by a constant factor of pi over 2, and you can use the Nelson's formulas to predict the oscillation period in the case of ammonia inversion state, and the tunneling time distributions has a exponential tail that's an universal behavior for the tunneling time distributions. And so thank you for the attention. Thank you to the organizers for the opportunity to present here. That's it.
Thank you. Questions, comments? I have a question. It's actually in the very beginning of the model. If you could back up your slides or go to the definition of velocity, I guess. One of the first slides.
Here?
Yes. I would like to understand. You're using quantum time. You're trying to quantize something, right? So you're using the definition of velocity in terms of limits. When delta t goes to 0.
Yes, it's the expression for the derivative. It's like we're doing calculus, but in here we are taking the average of this expression because we cannot differentiate the trajectories in stochastic trajectories.
So you're not worried about, you're not bothering about quantum time, actually. That, because you mentioned
Yes,
at the beginning about
this time is
not
just evolution parameter. It's not a fundamental concept of time.
Okay, so it's an evolution parameter. It's not the
Yes.
time of the clock. It's not the time of the clock.
I think they can be related because we are relating to the ammonia inversion. Like we can measure this. So it's a time. But it's more a time. It's a time more related with the classical concept of time.
But still, you're talking about quantizing, stochastic quantization with a classical time.
Yes, we have
that's
classical
correct,
time
right?
here. The difference in quantum mechanics, the main difference is that here we have trajectories
Okay.
for the particles. It doesn't have a wave function. We have trajectories.
Okay. So in the next slide, you define acceleration. I think the next one or another one. The one you define acceleration. Yeah. So you define acceleration. What is the difference between this definition and the normal one that exists in classical mechanics?
So this definition is based on the derivatives that are introduced in stochastic formulas. So here just we take the double derivative, the double derivative of the position of the particle. You can make this taking the first the plus and then the minus, or taking the minus and then the plus. So you have two ways to do this, and just take the average of these two ways.
D plus and D minus are the velocities that you defined previously. Is that correct?
The plus x is the v plus.
Right. So, how does it have units of acceleration? That x, I'm a bit confused with units here. Because if this is acceleration,
Yes, it's an acceleration, a mean acceleration of the trajectory.
velocity, and d is velocity. D plus and d minus are velocities, right?
Yes, they are velocities.
So on the right,
The time derivative,
how
no?
can we see
Yeah.
that?
The derivative operators.
D?
V is the velocity and D is an operator that's acting as a derivative.
So,
Plus and
it's an
minus are
operator.
just
So could you
integers.
back up on the definition of D?
Here,
Yeah, that's derivative. I mean, the second line, mean forward, backward time
yeah,
derivative.
this is the derivative of x. We can take another function. We can make it the
Okay, now I
f, and
understand.
here will be f.
Oh, I understand. You have time derivatives, okay. And they're averages. Time derivatives,
Yes.
both average. Okay, I understood now. Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, no, very nice talk. I have sort of a few sort of related questions, but I'll try and be quick. The stochastic quantization, this is giving you ultimately a probability distribution for where the particle is, yeah?
Yes,
And-
the probability is given by the Fokker-Planck equations.
Right, okay. And those position space probability distribution, that would agree with just sort of ordinary quantum mechanics or like standard as well, right?
Yes, agrees.
Okay.
Agrees.
Yeah, so I'm just wondering, like, why or like what is the advantage of using the stochastic quantization? Is it because it gives you like a real sort of velocity for the particle that you can interpret as the particle moving?
Yes, the advantage is it that you can have another insights to the phenomena.
Because they have actual trajectories, so you
Yes,
can
we
talk
can
about-
study the trajectories. We have velocities. So here it is studying timing, the tunneling timing. This problem is difficult to approach in quantum mechanics because it doesn't have a time operator. So we can use this to help us to solve problems that with the canonical formulas of quantum mechanics we can't.
Okay, and then so how is the tunneling time defined then in terms of the probability? I missed that, sorry.
Here is defined here. This probability can be directly calculated with the wave function. We just need to solve the Fokker-Planck equations because it would be more difficult. So we just solve the Schrödinger equation.
Okay. Okay, maybe I can ask you a little bit about this after, just because I don't see off the top of my head. But then on the one plot you showed, you do get a Hartman-like effect. Is that right?
No, we doesn't have the Hartman effect.
But as the barrier gets longer, the tunneling time goes to 0, right? So it can go like
Yes.
faster than the speed of light, right? Is this the
Yes,
idea?
the tunnel time goes to infinity. If the
So you don't get a Hartman effect then?
no,
Because that's really good if you
before-
don't. That's like
Yes, this is good.
that's very nice.
Before formulas, it doesn't get this Hartman effect.
So okay. Well, I don't want to take more time, so maybe I'll ask you after. But the point is, in this approach, you don't get a Hartman effect.
No.
Ah, okay, that's very nice.
More questions?
Out of curiosity, a basic question about your formulas. Do you know how it relates to either Bohmian mechanics or like
Yes,
stochastic
yes.
electrodynamics?
There's a relation with the Bohmian mechanics. Here,
Is it equivalent to it or are there differences?
no, I don't think that's equivalent, but there's a connection here in the Hamilton-Jacob equation. This part, this term, is the quantum potential in both here.
Yeah. But why is it not equivalent? What is different either in the dynamics or?
No, it's different. there are different interpretations, but there's a connection in some sense, but they are different.
But what are the differences? Like,
Yes.
But what are the
What
differences?
so the difference that here, I don't know much about the bone mechanics, but here we have definite trajectories to the particle. We have these two trajectories to the particle. I don't know if the bone mechanics do this, but it's a different way to from this bone mechanics using stochastic variables.
Okay.
Bone mechanics, I don't know those stochastic variables.
Yeah, I don't think they do exactly, but your equations look very similar, and I was wondering how they could differ in the dynamics. Like, how do your stochastic equations, for example, differ from the usual equations that you have in standard quantum mechanics and that you apply in Bohmian mechanics, for example?
Yes, yes. And they have a connection, but they are not entirely equal.
Okay.
More questions or comments? Let's thank